It's that time of the week again. We're going to dive into Lightroom Classic. We're going to edit one of my favorite photos that I've snapped over the last few years. It was a moment that I just happened to be there for to capture. I'm really, really happy with the photo, but it needs a little bit of work in editing to really bring out the best that this photo can offer. Let's get into it. It's Tutorial Tuesday. Welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday, where each and every Tuesday we bring you a brand new, fresh photography tutorial. Let's start into Lightroom Classic. Let's start working this photo. I'm very excited. I love this photo. Let's get into it. Right, now this is the photo that we're going to be working with, and as you can see, it's a really lovely moment. We've got kind of the sunset happening. We're on the beach. The tide is out, which makes for a very lovely scene anyway. That's why I headed down there. But we have this couple standing here. It's just a perfect moment. Right, and it's completely unplanned. It's just one of those moments you just have to take advantage of, right? I didn't necessarily have the right lens. I would have loved an 85mm f1.4, but I didn't have that. I think this was taken on a 24 to 70, so I shot at f2.8, 1/640th of a second. It's just the settings that I kind of had dialed in at the time, even down to the fact that it's actually a JPEG photo, because I just hadn't set the camera up properly yet. I was heading down to the beach. I was about to set it all up properly into RAW and things like that, but this moment just happened. I had a second to capture it. I'm really happy I did, because it's one of my favorite photos in this kind of situation. However, there are a few things that I want to sort out. I think we can probably slightly correct. You know, it's not quite straight on the horizon. Maybe we can work a little bit with the colors. We can probably just adjust the lighting a little bit. Not loads of editing, but some subtle changes, I think, to bring out the best in it. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now, the first thing I think we should do is straighten it up. Let's go ahead and actually see how Lightroom handles that. So with that in mind, the first thing I'll do is come down to the Transform tab. I'm actually going to click Auto and let Lightroom kind of straighten this up for us. Okay, I think that actually looks pretty good. What I am going to do is just rotate this slightly to make sure that horizon is nice and straight. And then what we could do is just maybe scale this up a touch. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll use the crop tool here to do that actually myself. I'm going to keep the sun somewhere around there. So we're kind of centering up our couple here. The sun is kind of on the top line of the rule of thirds. We've got a nice bit of foreground, but not too much. I think that looks really nice. Okay, great. Happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do immediately is actually bring the exposure down. Now we're a little bit, confined as to what we can do, because of the fact that it's a JPEG. We can't really mess this around too much. But what I'm going to do, bring the exposure down a tiny bit, bring the contrast up a little bit as well. And then actually, I think I'll bring the highlights down too much, but we want to be careful that we're not kind of ruining the photo. I'm actually going to bring the shadows down a touch as well. The clarity up, not too much, and the texture a little bit as well. And I'm just going to bring the vibrance up. I might just bring the saturation down just the tiniest amount. Okay, great. I think that immediately looks quite nice. We can see how far we've come by pressing the backslash key. Of course, we say that every week. Let's have a look. This is where we started. Do you know what? I quite like the softness of the tones. I don't know if we've gone a little bit far with it. Immediately, that means what I might do is actually get rid of the contrast and actually just get rid of some of the vibrance and saturation adjustments that we've made. This is an important part of editing, is kind of being able to undo the things you've done and really take a look. So before and after. Now, I like where we are with it. There's lots of different directions we could take with it. And before we go any further, what I'm going to do is come over to the left. I'm actually going to look at some of these presets. Now, the ones I want to look at are adaptive presets. These are presets that are going to apply certain things to certain parts of the photo. It's going to use the Lightroom kind of built-in AI to identify where, for example, the sky is and things like that. So we're going to look at the adaptive sky presets. Now, there's lots that we can look at. Gold now, for example, if I hover over that, is going to really warm up that sky. But I think we probably want to look at something like sunrise or possibly even sunset. Now, I think that looks quite nice. I'm going to click sunset. But what I'm going to do is actually bring the amount that's being applied down quite a lot. I actually think that looks quite nice. And I think we can do a lot more to even improve that further. Let's come up to masking. And the first mask I'm going to add, you can see we've actually got a mask there, sunset. That's the one we've just applied by using that adaptive sky preset. Let's go ahead and apply a linear gradient. I'm going to bring that down from the top. So something a little bit like this. And then what I'll do is I'll just bring the exposure down a touch on that upper part of the sky. Nothing too crazy, but something maybe a little bit like that. What I'm going to do is bring in another linear gradient from the bottom and just do something very similar here. I'm going to bring that up like that and bring the exposure down. What I want to do is really push our viewer's eye towards the center of this image. The easiest way we're going to do that is I'm going to do a radial gradient across the middle. I'm actually going to click invert here, and I'm going to bring that exposure down so that we really are pushing the viewer's eye into the center of the photo here. Great. Okay, I think that looks really quite nice. Let's go back to our overall editing. Now, I want to work a little bit with the colors because I think they've got a bit too out of hand, a bit too saturated. So let's scroll down here to the color mixer. We're going to be using the HSL sliders here. So let's go over to hue. Now with the orange, I'm going to see what that looks like if I move towards the red. Too much, I think. But maybe we'll do something like that. The yellow maybe a little bit towards the orange as well, just to unify that a touch. And maybe the blue, we'll see what that looks like if I just move it towards the aqua a touch. Is that really doing much? Not particularly. Okay, let's come over to saturation. Now with the orange, I'm actually going to bring some of that out. I don't think we want as much as we've got. And I'm going to bring some of the yellow out as well, just to kind of tame that a bit. It's getting a little bit intense there, a little bit too much in the photo. Okay, I think that looks quite nice. Let's go ahead and do one more mask here. Let's do a radial gradient. I'm going to do something in the middle like this. I'm just going to brighten that just a touch. I don't want to go too mad with that. So we'll do that. And we'll just bring the dehaze down just a tiny bit, just to soften that. Just to give us a feeling of kind of sunlight there a little bit. Now let's press the backslash key to see how far we've come. This is where we started. This is where we've got to. I actually much prefer this. I feel like we've really got the light a bit more under control. I do actually think like we've worked with the colors there, but we've kept them fairly natural, actually. We have really kept them kind of in play, but in a way that I think really works for the photo. Now, what if we were to uncrop this a little bit? What if we were to maybe go for something like so? Does that feel good with the photo? Do you know what? I don't hate it. I might come in for this sky mask that we created. And you know what I might do? I might bring some coolness to the top of that sky. Nothing too crazy, but something a little bit like that and just darken it a touch. Then I'm going to come into this mask we had at the bottom here. And I'm just going to darken that a little bit more. And possibly even just bring it up into the photo a little bit more as well. Brilliant. Let's look at the before and after again. So this is where we started. Actually, still quite nice. Just needed a little bit of adjusting and maybe is a touch bright. This is where we've gone to. Now, what we've done is we've obviously straightened it up and we've played with that light a bit. We've really pushed the viewer's eye into where that couple is, isolated them, right? It's a lovely moment. It's all about them, the sunset, the waves. So we've really pushed everything into that central part, which I think is really nice. And then we've kind of unified the colors. We've given this a little bit of a color grade. We've unified those oranges and yellows to feel kind of like, well, like I say, unified. I've used that word about 100 times, but it is the right word, I think. And then, of course, we've added some blue in the top. We've got the blue in the sea. It's a lovely kind of feel to it. Those colors obviously go really well together. I'm very happy with how this has panned out. You know, if we wanted to go even further with it, we could scroll down to something like the vignette tool down here. We could actually just bring that in. If we wanted to go a little bit more intense with it, we could do something like that. You know, we could feather that up a bit. I personally don't think we really need to be doing that. I think this works really well as it is. I think it looks quite nice. There's already a bit of a vignette there as well because of how we've applied things. So I'm pretty happy with that as an end result. That's how I would edit that photo. Like I say, complete luck that I was there at that exact time, but that really sums up, and the reason it's such is one of my favorite photos I've taken is because that really is just photography for me. It's just being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it just does come down to luck, but you can enhance your chances of being in the right place at the right time by getting out there. You know, I knew it was sunset and I knew the tide was going to be low. So I'd already put myself in a good position to capture some kind of photograph. And then I happened to be there for this, but I'd already increased my chances by making sure I was there at the right time. And then here we go. Now, of course, you can check out a full list of all the kit we use for these photos, for these videos, everything down in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. There's always new content all the time. If you have any things you'd like to see in Tutorial Tuesday, whether it's editing or practical, let me know down in the comments because I want to make sure I'm making the stuff that you guys want to see. Otherwise, of course, I will see you in the next video. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.